do better until you know better. And once you know better, you are charged with doing better. Listen, I am a singer, songwriter, entertainer with a conscience, and you are watching a young man live his dream. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Let's get started right away because I want to get to our guests. We have some really special guests tonight. Um, First of all, we talked last segment about our census that's going on right now. If you have received your census form, I implore you, please take care of it. Please fill it out. Once again, it's not just about funding for your area, funding for your state, your county. It's also about your legacy. It's about when people, decades from now and generations from now, try to find you, they're going to find you through the census. So let's make sure that we take care of all of that. The dates have been extended, of course, due to the COVID pandemic. So you'll have a little extra time to take care of that. So please make sure that you fill out your census forms. You'll also see the 2020census.gov link travel through the lower third on the screen as we go through the program. So if you need any further information, please go to that website. All right, thank you so much for that. And then also, if you live in Georgia, you know that our election was postponed due to our shelter in place orders by the governor and by the Secretary of State. Well, we don't know what that's going to look like for our June 9th primary. So I also implore you, please apply for an absentee ballot and be ready to vote by mail because that may be the way that we have to do this. I spoke to someone at the Cobb County Elections Office today, and they mentioned that they are going to open their polls beginning on the 18th of May. I don't know what that's going to look like with people trying to go and still physically distance. So the safest and probably most efficient way to make sure that your vote is counted is to, as soon as possible, apply for an absentee ballot so that you can get it in the mail and get it back because it has to be in by June 9th, 7 p.m. on June 9th. It can't come in later than that. It can't be postmarked on June 9th. It has to be in by June 9th. So please take care of that as soon as you possibly can. All right. We want to make sure that everybody's vote is counted. Also, to that point, again, the governor has extended the shelter in place order until the end of April, until April 30th. I'm sorry, the end of May, right? So we have this shelter in place order going on and we still have businesses open. It's a real confusing time. You don't know from day to day what's going to happen. So to kind of bring us a little more clarification, I wanted to bring someone in who absolutely has much more information on this than I do. He's a friend of ours and not a stranger to know better. He's my friend, my brother, Dr. David Malebranche. David, are you there? I think
Can you hear me okay?
We got you. How are you,
perfect.
sir?
Yeah, no, it's an honor to be here again, especially I think when we last talked, it was about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
we've learned a lot more since then.
I think at that time we had, now we have 71,148 fatalities in the United States, and that's 47,779 more than the last time we talked.
Yeah.
So,
and we have a ton more cases. I think in the United States, it's over 1.2 million now. So having over 71,000 deaths is absolutely crazy. And I think they were projecting at some point early on that we'd reach 60,000 deaths by August. And so we far surpassed that, and it's only the beginning of May. So I think especially with increased testing and people are watching closely, and when we have deaths in hospitals, they're actually accurately being recorded as deaths due to COVID-19. I think we're going to see a lot of those numbers raise up.
There was some sort of information going that the CDC was adjusting numbers or adjusting them down in terms of the deaths that had occurred. Now, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I don't know about that. And I think, when you look at a lot of the information that's out there, because this is a new virus that we've never seen before, and because of the times we're in where truth is not necessarily truth, or people say here's a fact, but here's an alternative fact. And so you have a lot of misinformation going on around there. I've actually heard both sides of that. So I've heard that estimates are lower than what they are. That's been kind of the predominant logic because we haven't been testing like we needed to, and we haven't been recording the deaths as due to COVID-19 like we're supposed to. But I've also heard the converse of that, which is more of, well, they're kind of raising the numbers so that it makes, the federal government and our president look bad. And I just, I think there's so many things kind of rolling around right now. It's a little bit crazy. So I try to keep my information on a lot of the science and the public health experts that are speaking, because once you get the politicians involved, it really gets to be a shit show. So
I was
I can curse on here, can I? I forgot. I
shit
blurted
show
that
works
out.
for me. It's okay.
Sorry.
You're fine. And to that point, our governor here in Georgia decided against conventional wisdom to, I guess, open up the state to some degree, where we had a certain sector of businesses, barbershops, hair salons, massage parlors, go figure, bowling alleys, to open last week. And the mayor here, Keisha Lance Bottoms, suggested that we, for lack of a better word, ignore that and do what's best for you and your family. So that's kind of what's going on here. Now, speaking to that curve that we talked about last time, how the shelter-in-place orders, the physical distancing would help to flatten that curve. What is that looking like right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the states. I think with the United States overall, it looks like it's kind of flattening, but it depends on where you are. And obviously on the West Coast, on the East Coast, you're seeing a flattening of the curve, but it's not this kind of up and down that you're thinking it's kind of coming out and then going on a plateau, which brings into question, a lot of the states, if not all of them, are not really following the own federal government's guidelines for that you have to show a downward trend for about 14 days in a row. So people are opening up, and thank God for Keisha Bottoms being the mayor of Atlanta, because, Georgia is a very diverse state, and people think that Georgia is just Atlanta, but you literally drive 15 minutes outside of that and you're in the sticks. So you have to be careful with saying that what you do in Atlanta is the same thing that you can do in more rural and less metropolitan areas. And so it gets to be a little bit crazy. And I think what's interesting is I'm in upstate New York right now. And what's great is seeing Governor Cuomo showing the kind of leadership. And a lot of people didn't like him or had, problems with the way he led before, but they're seeing that in a time of crisis, when he gets on the air and he's on the TV almost every day, giving his updates, and he usually starts with facts. So he starts with the numbers. He's very honest about the good and the bad and kind of what's happening and what we need to do in the future. And what he's also doing right now is that I'm in a more rural area of upstate New York right now, which doesn't have the case rate that downstate New York City has. And so it makes sense when you're looking at the totality of a full state to be logical, and as a public health official, go in and see other areas and say, well, okay, this area is being decimated, or this area has a high rate. And so we can't really open things up this quickly. But some of the areas where the prevalence is much lower, and it depends on what you're testing for. The nasal swab is testing for the virus itself. These antibodies that people talk about a lot are actually testing if you've been exposed in the past. And so when they did antibody testings in the state of New York, they found that the capital region, like around Albany, Schenectady, Troy, which is where I'm at right now, we had about 2.5% prevalence. That means for every 100 people, there's about 2.5 that tested positive for a past exposure to coronavirus. And so when you have a number that's that low, yes, it's optimistic, but then when you're not testing everybody and you don't know whether someone actually, their immune system could produce those antibodies. So you're kind of grasping for straws a little bit on some levels, and you have to base things on models and estimates, so on and so forth. But it may be a staged thing where you can actually open up certain kinds of businesses, open up certain areas of the state a little bit quicker. And I just wish, my primary residence is in Atlanta, Georgia, obviously, and I just wish Governor Kemp had more of the nuance, intelligence, and common sense that Governor Cuomo does in New York, because it would be a very different picture if he actually followed the science and the facts.
speaking about Keisha Lance Bottoms being the mayor of Atlanta, and Atlanta being the largest city in the state. But like my mother says, when you're outside of Atlanta, you're in Georgia. Don't forget
Right.
it. Well, I live in Stockbridge, which is suburban Atlanta, and so I have to definitely applaud the Stockbridge city government here because they went along with Mayor Lance Bottoms. John Blunt and the other council people here were dead set against opening, as quickly and quite frankly as irresponsibly as Governor Kemp sought to do. I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit, David, but the old African American aphorism: when white America catches a cold, Black America gets pneumonia, has a new and morbid twist, right? When white America catches the novel coronavirus, Black Americans die. Um, so we know about the disparities and income equality issues, but there are extra ways to mitigate the spread. I mean, what could you speak to that? I mean, what exactly could we be doing, because it's getting just, I don't know, ridiculous at this point. I don't know
Yeah,
where to go
I
with
think it's kind of a challenge because what you're seeing is kind of the public health implications of decades and decades and hundreds of years of racist environmental policies, housing policies, other kinds of policies that strategically put Black people in certain positions, especially in major metropolitan areas. And so when you drop a virus in that environment, of course it's gonna flourish. And so what I try to steer away from are the conversations similar to what the Surgeon General had, which is, the one time you're going to speak about Black people or Latino people, Latinx people, you're going to say, oh, do it for your abuela, do it for your pop, do it for Big Mama, and do it for all these things. And you're not acknowledging kind of the larger things that are happening. The stories that I'm seeing a lot of times nowadays are there are Black and brown people that are going to get tested who have symptoms and are being turned away by emergency rooms and being told that they don't have tests. And they have to come back 2 or 3 times until they're basically on death's door, or they get turned away so much they just stay at home because the healthcare provider says, well, we don't have enough tests. And so we're just going to assume that you have COVID-19 and just wait it out at home and let's see what happens. Then the person is found dead in their apartment a week or so later. And so when you're seeing that, you're seeing a racial inequity. And even 80% of the deaths in Georgia, I heard, are among Black folks. So it's one of those things where you're seeing a structure that is inherently steeped in white supremacy and racism and inequalities that emerge out of that inequality and racism. And so what you end up seeing at the end of the day when you look at those outcomes, it's just going to always skew kind of towards Black and brown people doing worse. And so I think, yes, we can do the things that we're doing. We can do positive things like staying at home if we're able to, if we have the privilege to stay at home and our jobs allow us to stay at home. We can continue to wear masks. We can continue to physically distance. We can make sure our hands are washed. And we can also empower ourselves and our families to keep getting information out there that when you do feel sick, and I mean, I do have to say this, since the last time I spoke on this show, immediately when we were talking about the symptoms, when everything first came out, we were talking about cough, fever, and shortness of breath. And now we're finding out that for elders, we're seeing people that just have symptoms of like fatigue and maybe loss of appetite, or maybe some diarrhea, because elders don't have as strong immune system as younger folks do. And so their response is not always going to be to produce a fever or have a cough or have shortness of breath. They may manifest differently. We've heard of things happening in the blood vessels in the toes, causing discoloration of the toes. We've heard of younger people suffering from strokes instead of those traditional manifestations of COVID-19. So again, this is a virus and a public health pandemic that we're seeing in real time. And so we're learning stuff about it almost every day. So we have to be vigilant as Black people to make sure we're keeping up with the education and the information that's out there from public health officials. Again, not from politicians. Go to the article, go to the study yourself, listen to a public health official. Dr. Fauci is probably the best source, the only source that I really listen to when I watch TV nowadays. If I see a public health official on there, he's the one that I think is speaking the most truth out there. And he's got like 30 years of experience behind his back. So we need to listen to that. But I would just tell a lot of people out there who are watching and who are listening to make sure that we do all the individual things that we can. We may not be able to control some of these systemic and social inequalities that we're facing against, but there are some personal things that we can do in the meantime to help ourselves. So obviously when Mayor Bottom said, okay, Atlanta, I heard what Governor Kemp said, but you guys know you need to do this, because all the businesses he's opening are businesses that are frequented by Black and brown people. And so, and these are small businesses, and they know the president of the Georgia State Department of Commerce actually made the comment, well, all these small businesses, these people have to go out and work because they're mostly Black and Latino. And I was thinking to myself, oh, so you actually know that it's mostly Black and Latino. So this is kind of, well, let's see what happens if we let these folks go out. And then we know the rates are still going up, but we're going to let you go business behind the guise of saying, oh, well, you know, yeah, we want you to earn your money again. And then seeing what happens. And we were all saying to ourselves, why not open up the country clubs, the tanning salons, the golf courses? Why not start with them and then let them go out and see what happens? And you see the same dynamic happening at the meat processing plants, chicken, pork, red meat. You're seeing most of the people that work there are Black and brown and also immigrants. So when the president gets on the TV and he says stuff like, well, I'm going to block that so people still need to go to work, when most of the workers, 60% of the workers are of Black or Latino descent and or immigrants, you know what that's targeting. Like you get these signals about lives that are being devalued, and they're not white lives that are being devalued, they're more Black and brown people. So I think with the recognition of what's going on in the bigger picture, but then taking some personal responsibility and not doing stupid shit, given the fact that the bigger structures are kind of working against us, we have to be smarter than that. We have to be more empowered in that, and we have to move forward and critique the things as they need to be critiqued.
Indeed. David, I could listen to you all day because this is so pertinent. The information that you're giving is not the information that we're going to get watching, you know, our news feed. And so I really appreciate it. I know you're the HIV doc. That is who you are and that's what you do, but you're so much more than that. How can everybody get in touch with you if they need to?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter at @Malebranche. So you can hit me up at any of those venues. And I'm always kind of popping off at the mouth on there. So I have this weird feed where like I could be watching Project Runway and comment on that. And then I'll be, you know, sending a scientific study that I got from, you know, a respected medical journal. And then I'm going to clown on our president, and then I'm going to put something out about something else socially relevant. So like if you're listening, and I'll put something about sports. So if you follow my Twitter feed, it's like it's all over the map. And I always laugh because when I put out certain things, I can see people leaving, and I just laugh because I'm like, oh well, so they were just there for the science, or they were just there for the Project Runway comments, and now when they see the science or they see the Project Runway comments, they're like, I'm not going to follow him anymore. So you can follow me on there, but you're going to get a hodgepodge of different interests with me.
Well, it's all good. I'm following because I'm here for you, David Malebranche.
And I thank you, Kipper.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thank you so very much once again, Dr. David Malebranche. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back with our next guest. You are watching Know Better with Kipper Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in. saved the best for last, as well as giving voice to the Oscar-winning Colors of the Wind. The TV and film roles were that we know so well: Wilhelmina Slater on Ugly Betty, Renee Perry on Desperate Housewives, alongside the late Diane Carroll. She played Mother Henriette DeLille in the Lifetime epic The Courage to Love, and of course Terry Joseph in Soul Food, one of our favorites. She owned the Broadway stage in productions of Kiss of the Spider Woman, Into the Woods, where she was a Tony and Drama Desk nominated actress, starred as Jessie Mae Watts alongside Cicely Tyson in The Trip to Bountiful, and many other esteemed productions. In 2012, she authored her memoir entitled You Have No Idea with her mother, my lady, Miss Helen Williams, and launched her own fashion line, V, in 2016. Before any of that, she is a wife and the mother of 4 amazing children. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, my sister, Miss Vanessa Williams.
Hey, Kipper, can you hear me?
I
My
can hear
mic?
you well.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely to be on your show.
This is amazing. You're on my show. Who would have thunk it? Right? This is like beyond.
It's only been, what, 32 years 33 years that we've known each other?
33 years, like literally like 87. Wow.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the one thing that I left out of all of those credits and plaudits or whatever you want to call, I mean, the list of course is far longer than that. But the
Yeah.
one thing I left out is you, lady, are, whether you know it or not, a hip hop icon.
Am
You do-
I?
You do know this, right? Hey, can you play that video for me right quick?
Uh-oh. Are we playing Right Stuff?
Let me see. Play that for me if you got it.
Or work to do?
Yeah, come on. I know it's in there.
One to give me that loving, cause next to him there is no other one. He's very sexy and oh so sweet, and he knocks me off my feet. Say it! He's fierce! Ooh yeah, help me sing it again. Na 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 na, hey hey hey. I need the right stuff. I got to have the right stuff, baby. I don't wanna miss out on the right stuff. Say na 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 na.
Okay. So 10 years before Missy Elliott, I mean 25 years before anybody named Nicki Minaj. you were
My little rap.
from the mean streets of Chappaqua. you was putting it down. What?
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't know if you realize. I mean, there was you, there was MC Light, there was, Latifah, there was, hey, you were right in there. So, hip hop
Doing my
icon,
rap. Mm-hmm.
add that to the list.
I'll take that. I'll
Okay.
take it. Yeah, that was the first hit that I had off the Right Stuff album back in 1988, and you wrote that song.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's where I was at that time. I got a call from Ed Eckstein, our friend, and he says, "Do you have a song for Vanessa Williams?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a song for Vanessa Williams. You kidding me?" And I didn't. I absolutely did not. But he said, "Well, yeah, cool. Bring it tomorrow, and let me know." And so I stayed up the entire night.
You're kidding. I didn't know
No.
that story.
Okay, so I stayed up the entire night and I hammered out. And I'm not a player, but I hammered out this little piece or whatever. And he heard it. And he's got, Ed, yeah, it's got great bones. Talk to Chucky and Rex and see what you guys can, maybe they can help you flesh out this idea or whatever. And so Rex did, and Chucky came and played. And so what you ended up hearing was after all of that, you know what I mean? So,
You were doing an all-nighter. You're cramming for your exam.
Listen, and that was the ultimate exam. It was like either it was the make or break,
Yes, that's funny.
And then we had
Chucky Booker, for all those people that are music heads. Chucky
Yeah.
Booker, you're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that became the right stuff.
Yeah,
And that started it all. And
it did. It
wow.
did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Times were so simple then. I used to, because I just had Melanie, who's now 32. I used to stay at home all day with her and then wait for my husband to get home. And then we'd start at nighttime. And I basically do my night job was recording the album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I remember, so in the credits you called me the lick master. And now I gotta say, you are Vanessa Williams, okay? And so everybody was like, okay, so what is that quite what does that quite mean? What are you what are you doing with Vanessa Williams that she called you the lick master, son?
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm like, no, I think it has more to do with my singing.
Yeah, yeah, no. Your runs. Yeah, exactly.
Oh goodness.
No, those are the
So
days.
those
But
were
so
great.
much has
Those were
happened.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
was simple times, and when I look back, is because my middle daughter Jillian's a recording artist, and we had the luxury of having a home. You had a record company that you got either an 8 album deal or a 10-year deal, so you had some space, some time to develop your whole trajectory, your artistry. You had
mhm,
A&R people picking music for you that knew your sound and helped develop the sound. And you also had, a bevy of producers and time in the studio. Now and also the machine that would get it played on radio.
mhm,
Now it's kind of, you're lucky if you get an album that everyone hears. It's really a singles market. You're lucky to get a deal, and you don't have the security that we had back in the day.
mhm, mhm,
So it's hard. I feel it's hard for, in general, since I'm a mother of four. It's hard for kids to start out on their own because they just don't have the luxury of having a $700 apartment, $700 a month apartment to be able to manage their money and have a job and not, always have to hustle to just live.
yeah,
And that's back to what we're talking about, economic status and all that. It's tough to live out there now. So
yeah.
not
It's
to get too
amazing.
deep, but
No, no, it really is. I mean, when you think about having to maintain a certain standard of living,
mhm,
and to have any sort of ambition as far as, especially if you're an artist. I mean, if you
mhm,
have an artistic ambition and you have to devote that kind of time to what it is that you're trying to accomplish, I mean, I would hate to be 30 right now. I'm glad I'm on the other side of that, to be honest with you. I mean,
mhm,
at this point where I am in my life. But
yeah,
to that point though, what do you think? Because I mean, looking at Jillian, I mean, she's got Lion Babe,
mhm.
and they do their thing, and I'm so impressed with her. I mean, it's just amazing.
Oh,
And it's
thank you.
funny because when I look at her, I'm like, I see you. I mean,
Uh,
I do, and I know that there's so much of you that comes through, that channel. But the age of independence now in music and in the business
mhm,
is so vastly different than when we came up. Like you said, you had to have a deal. If you were
mhm,
going to be doing records, you had to have a recording contract with a company that
mhm,
had an A&R department, an artist development department, a promotion and marketing department,
mhm.
publicity. I mean, just all these integers. And
Right.
and so for folks who are doing it now and doing it themselves, it's a whole new world.
A whole
Um,
new world. But
so
also, back in the day when I got my deal, even though it was a deal, I was still not even taken seriously. And that's having the label of being famous as a beauty queen as opposed to a musician. So
mhm,
I went in there and people completely blew me off. Nia Peoples was the person that had the hot record, and I was just, they weren't going to pay attention to me. But we slowly worked and worked and worked. And, I love the scrappy sense that we had
yeah,
as a team,
yes,
because it was like, okay, count us out. We got you. Just count us out. And we
yeah,
kept going and we were consistent and had endurance and we kept surprising people. And I think that's what's I mean, I'm 57 years old, and every time I have an achievement, whether it's on Broadway, whether it's on television, being nominated for 3 Emmy Awards back to back, and it's oh, I didn't know she could do that. Oh, I didn't know she was funny. Oh, I didn't know she could act. Oh, I didn't know she could dance. So I've had that every time I've had any kind of achievement. It's always been I've been uh, it's been unexpected and I don't want to say underwhelmed, but people always kind of counted me out just because of people make assumptions. And that's unfortunately what happens in life. It's first impressions and what are you known for? And I tell my kids all the time, you walk in the door and people are gonna assess you out. That's just human nature.
Mm.
So you got to make sure that not only do you make a good impression, but then you have the work ethic to back it up. And Jillian, who has a recording career now, she graduated from New School. She was a dance major, liberal arts, and a dance concentration. And she wanted to be a dancer. And she started making music. And when she graduated, I had a gig in Japan. I go every other year. And she said, "Oh, I want to go." I said, "Well, if you want to go, you're going to have to learn all my music and you're going to have to sing background." So she learned everything that I gave her the set list. She learned all her parts and she toured with me for a year. So she learned what it was like to be on the road, do sound check, know what she needs in her monitors, um, work, do 2 shows a night when we're in Japan. And she learned what it was like to be on the road, but she expected it because she's seen me as an example her whole life. So that's my kids have a great work ethic because they've been backstage on Broadway, they've been in my trailer on a movie set, they've been, you know, everywhere with me, and they know the hours that I put in, but they also see me memorizing stuff and they see me preparing to do a role, and they understand that it takes work. So I'm happy that they've all seen that and know what they have to do, and I'm realistic about achieving whatever they want to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And to see the results, I mean, that has to be very gratifying for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all talented, they're all creative, and they all work hard and they're good people. And that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk about, well, no, I don't want to move into that yet because I still want to, you mentioned it. You said, we were a scrappy team and we were just, and I like the way you said that
Yeah.
because we were. I mean, I remember when, you called me, I think, and you said, okay, so we're ready for the next record. And I was like, okay, cool. And so you were doing, what was the movie with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder?
Another You,
Wow.
which we called Another Year because it took so long to film. But yeah, it was called Another You.
So it was that. And so Ed swoops by, picks me up. We go to the set, hang out with you in the trailer because I think we had a little conversation. I was like, it's always my thing to get in your head and find out, like, where are you? What are you thinking? How are you, feeling these days or whatever? And you were like, I'm in a great place and life is good and all that kind of thing. And so I think the conversation ended with, comfort zone. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I don't know if it's a lyric. I don't know if it's a song title, whatever. So got together with Reggie Stewart and we took the cassette, I remember, to the set and played it for you. And you were like, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And we were off and running again, and that was an amazing, amazing project. And it was just, I mean, I don't want to bemoan the term comfortable, but it was just a very comfortable situation where, we just had this machine and it was working.
Yeah.
And
it was also, I mean, we had success, which, no one really thought we would for Right Stuff. So we came back to comfort zone and still, in terms of the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's and all the Diane Warrens and stuff, we were still like, we can do it by ourselves. And that's, so even when I got Save the Best for Last as a song, it had already been passed by, I think Bette Midler passed on it. I think Barbara Streisand had passed on it. And I was like, I love it. I'll take it. And when it was huge, it was 6 weeks #1 on the pop charts. I'm sure they all said, "Why didn't I get that?" And because they passed, and we knew that we could do it. And not make it a huge hit, but make it our own, which is what we did with our music.
And Ed Eckstein, I got to give it to him once again. I know these kids in the business these days don't know what a B-side is, but you know, when you have a when you have a single, there's a song on the other side of the single.
Of the record.
Of the record, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, records, kids.
The 45.
The
Yeah.
45. See, those was, yeah. But but what happens is the song on the other side sells with the single that's the A side, right? And it always put me on the B side. And I'm so grateful that I was on the B side of Save the Best for Last. So God bless you, Ed Eckstein, wherever you are. I know you're out there watching. Yeah.
I think he's in Encino.
Yeah, good. You better be watching, Edward.
Yeah.
So listen, let's talk about Vanquisha the House. I don't want to let this evening go by without.
Well, speaking of being multi-talented, so you know, and I know, and again, I know you touched on HIV/AIDS, which has been one of my missions ever since the 80s. And you know, my first wedding, I lost 5 people that attended my wedding from the AIDS virus, which is horrible. Which is back in 1987. I did RuPaul's Drag Race celebrity competition, and won it. And I had to come up with a drag name, and I was thinking of a V, and I said, Vanquisha, and then I was like, you know, like, and then I thought about like voguing back in the day, and I was like, you know, the house of this house, and I said, Vanquisha the House. So that was my inspiration for my drag name. And my my charity that I won $30,000 was the Trevor Project, which was started by James Lacine, who actually gave me my first off-Broadway musical back in 84 when nobody was taking me seriously. Again, it goes back to, you know what? Count me out, but I'm going to find my way and make it. And so it was wonderful to give back there, but also to see the progress of, you know, watching RuPaul in a global phenomenon. I mean, I'm supposed to be in London right now doing City of Angels at the Garrick Theatre. Of course, they closed down all the theaters due to the global crisis. But I saw him. He came to see a show when we were in previews. He's seen me through my whole career, and I feel a kinship because we both, you know, became famous in the 80s. He took drag, and now it is a global commodity. I mean, my daughter grew up at 8 years old watching RuPaul's Drag Race. She's 20 years old now. It's normal. It's showbiz, and there's no judgment. It's taken something that, which what the Trevor Project is for people that want to commit suicide because they feel like they are not included, and they've made and especially Ru has created a platform to make inclusion acceptable and highlighted. And I'm so happy that I've seen the progression over the past 35 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know if you wanted to, because you do a lot of philanthropic work. I mean, I know that you do, and I know that. Okay, I don't want to cry.
Don't cry.
but yeah. But because of my own life, and I know how integral you've been, a part you've been for me, and so I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone that you've touched in that way, and been able to make people feel accepted. I hate the word tolerated. Tolerance to me is don't tolerate me. If you can't accept me, you can keep your tolerance to yourself. But and so I just wanted to say thank you because it means everything. It's life-saving. Like you said, you know, there are people and you know, David Malebranche, again, you know, the doctor who was on earlier, you know, he works in HIV and AIDS, and we all know that there are people who are against these odds that don't see hope. They don't see a light. They don't see a way out of this non-acceptance, or they've been put out of the house by the parents or whatever. I do a lot of work here with an agency called Lost and Found for homeless LGBTQ kids, teens, who are just literally, when we talk about shelter in place, their shelter is the sidewalk or the freeway underpass. They don't have anywhere to go. And so, the work that you're doing it's life-saving, so
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Love you and happy to. I mean, I remember back in I was pregnant with Jillian, so it had to be 1989, and a friend of mine was ill in the hospital, sick with AIDS, and I remember going to visit him, and people thought I was out of my mind, and I said, I'm not going to get AIDS by visiting a friend and holding his hand while he's dying. And luckily, I got a chance to do it, and it takes courage to not be afraid. But again, once you have the facts and the science, then there shouldn't be anything that would stop you.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be part of a huge movement, but also it's all about it too, because we're all human beings. We all have a story.
Right, right. I think your story of persistence and tenacity and scrappiness, as you say, uh, I think it's just a blessing that we can watch it, see it, know that we can emulate it. I guess is the better word. To use that story and emulate it.
But it's also uh, jumping on opportunities too. I mean, you can have a plan, but you never know what doors will open. For instance, so we became friends. Your mother told a story about these black nuns, and I grew up Catholic. I go, black nuns. She's like, oh yeah, they were the first order of black nuns in the United States. That was, and it was your sister. Wasn't it your sister who was
Yes.
part of the sisters?
My sister Jana was going to a school called Regina Caeli, who was founded by this order of nuns. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I was going into that. So perfect.
Good transition.
Yeah, great transition.
Yeah. But that was an opportunity that came out of a conversation. I was completely intrigued because I'd never even heard of the story nor knew about this order. Ended up having a script written, produced it, did it for Lifetime, and now we've got it was back in 2000 that we ended up having it on Lifetime 20 years ago. But it was a story of Sister Henriette Delille, who is hopefully will be canonized. I know she's venerated now, and she's in the process, in the queue. So hopefully we can get her in. But again, it's a story of not being included, having faith, believing that, okay, count me out. I'm still gonna do what I'm called to do. And she had a tremendous courage. She had miracles that that had happened around her, and that's why she should be canonized as a saint. But it was taking an opportunity from a conversation that we had, but also taking the opportunity from her when the Archbishop said, no, you can't start your own order. She made her own habits, and she fed the poor and did the work, and eventually was acknowledged. So you just got to do the work. You got to persist and be courageous. If a door opens, go for it. You never know where it'll lead you.
Yeah. What's that saying about I would rather ask for forgiveness than beg for permission?
Ooh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, let me just do it and, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Right.
Yeah,
But there's
because
really no mistakes though. In life. They're all experiences, and you chose it and you learn from it, and it's in the past and you move on.
Mhm,
So to get caught up in like, oh my God, my life, and get caught up in the past takes away the forward motion of anything.
mhm,
So you can't progress in life at all if you stay stuck. So you
yeah,
got to be courageous and you got to move forward.
yeah. And you talk about that work ethic. That to me is just the most important thing. I mean, once you make up your mind and decide you're going to do it, then be intentional about it, and know that the work that you put into it will be rewarded, but you got to put the work into it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were lucky. Our age group, our parents really lived the American dream, coming out of the the 60s where we really had civil unrest and a real change in the American system where they got a chance to buy their own houses. They were all educated. Most of them went to college. Both my parents had their masters. My dad served in the military. Both my parents were music educators. They owned property. They had IRAs. They really were the American dream. And I know your mom, same thing, educated, worked hard, but also had everything that was allowed as the American dream for us. So we saw them work hard, but also achieve educationally and also socially. And it really, that was a generation that really kind of showed us what hard work could, realize for us.
Sure.
And yeah.
Do you know, David and I speak about that a lot because, he's the same. We all grew up in Carson, California, and his dad was an aerospace engineer. They moved into the bigger home. I mean, they were educated people. They worked hard. They taught their kids. They raised their children. I think, we talk about that a lot these days, that kids kind of just grow up. They're not raised in the way that we were. I mean, there was discipline, there was order, there was, there was some real sense of, they gave you something to emulate. And I think that it really carries through. And kudos to you once again, because, your kids see that, and, they see that same work ethic in play, and with my mom too. But I think there came a generation of entitlement. I don't know. I think you got a trophy when you signed up. You didn't have to,
Right.
you know what I mean? You didn't really have to play or let alone win. You just
Right.
kind of, you paid the fee, you got a trophy. Okay, good. And so I don't know. I think it kind of breeds a different sort of character.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you
Yeah.
for saying that, because I mean that's very, very true. And yeah, folks, my mom called me one day. She says, I have this idea. I want to do this story. What do you think if I take this to Vanessa? I'm like, I told you about piggybacking off my contacts. But anyway,
She did it,
I think
and it worked.
it
Yeah.
worked. It worked well. So the movie was called The Courage to Love. It's a Lifetime movie. Diane Carroll, Gil Bellows,
Mhm.
Cinda
Yeah.
Williams. Yeah, wasn't it? I think.
Cinda was in it. Yeah.
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 Amazing.
Yeah. And I see them. I just did a gig down in Covington, Louisiana in the fall, and they all came with, some of them had walkers, and all those little nuns were adorable. Sister Greta came, who's
Oh, what?
yeah. So they're all,
I
I
hope
see
my
them
sister's
probably every other
watching
year.
this. I so hope my sister's watching this, because she's gonna be like, "Oh my God, I'm your sister Greta." Yeah, man. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing thing. So, we're in hibernation now. Um, for God knows how much longer. We don't know what this looks like. So what do you got cooking? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I can't wait to get back to London to continue City of Angels, because I know our set is waiting for us. I just finished doing a children's book that's coming out next month. Actually, I have it over here. And it's based on a song that I've had for 30 years. It's called Bubble Kisses. I don't know. It's very
Oh
shiny right now.
wow!
Yeah.
Awesome!
But it's
Awesome.
about a little girl who's got a goldfish named Sal, and she goes on adventures with Sal and turns into a mermaid and goes underwater. And it all came out of a song that I had heard from one of my friends whose mother had a demo and said, I think you'd like this song. And I had the kids at the time, and I just never got around to recording it. I was going to do a children's album, never happened, and never did a children's book. And now that I'm an empty nester, I had time, and it's just it's a really cute bubble kisses, but she swims by in the water. It's very like
That little
1940s.
swing thing.
Yes, exactly. So it comes with a CD that you can play in the car. It'll be the alternative to Baby Shark, 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 do 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 do, which I know parents already like. blow their brains out. But so this is the new hit that they can play
The
in the
Baby
car.
Shark.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So, other than that, any new music?
I have been trying to make some new music for the past probably 5 years, and I've had the 3 label deals that I've had. Okay, we're going to do it. They've all kind of disintegrated.
Mhm.
So I've got a 2 label deal now at BMG. So hopefully we will be making some new music soon.
Call me.
And I know, and I've got a piano right here. I've got a mic. I've got a mixer, so I can do my own vocals in my music room. And just I literally did. I did for a benefit. I sang through my mic into a mixer, put it through on the GarageBand, did 4 tracks,
Mhm.
sent it to Henry Hay, who then put organ and keys on it, mixed it, and it was perfect. So maybe that's the way we have to do music in the future.
Well, I don't know if you see my chaotic eyeball right here. So
Okay.
here's my mic, and
Okay.
I have my mixer right behind this. You can't
Let's
see it,
do it.
but I'm actually doing a dance music EP for the summer.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I'll send you some stuff. You can hear it, and maybe maybe I can get you to pull up your mic and lend your folks. When I tell you, I went to that Atlanta Symphony Hall concert, and this woman's voice is still, I mean, just amazing. Just absolutely
Wow.
beautiful. David was like, "My God, she sounds so good." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, she does." It's
But
one of the
again,
more
that's
amazing
training,
instruments.
though. I mean, I was a musical theater major, so I learned how to sing properly, and I warm up, and I take care of my voice.
Yeah,
And so you got to have longevity.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, I'm doing the Berklee College of Music business degree program now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just doing the music business degree program. So I'm not an instrumental major, not a voice major, just the
Ah,
business thing. However, you have to have theory background. You have to have, the whole thing. They don't play over there. So they're
right.
very serious.
I'm at Steinhardt at NYU. I'm doing
Ah,
vocals. Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So see what we're doing at 57 and 58 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
this
We're
is.
professors now.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not teaching. I'm getting my degree.
Oh, you are?
I am, because I got a record deal at
Ah.
19, and that's kind of what happened. So yeah. So listen, Vanessa Williams, you're
Love
awesome, and
you.
I love you
Thank
more.
you.
And I mean, I'm sure we could probably do this all night, all night, all night.
All right.
But I absolutely
Thank you.
love you, and thank you
Lo-
so very much for taking out the
You're
time.
welcome. And
Okay.
we'll make some music together soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thank
Cool.
you. All right. Bye bye.
All right. Have a good night.
Love you. Bye.
The views and opinions expressed on No Better are those of its host and guest and do not reflect those of the Status Network or any of its affiliates.